When we were on the phone 2 days ago, when you mentioned you were listening to my podcast, but at a 2x, for a second I was like, wait, what does he mean? But then I realized that you can fast forward it, and it just picks up the speed a little bit.
Yeah,
just makes it go by quicker.
Well, and the reason I do that is you still get the same time, but in the 2x you get more time to learn more stuff.
Right, you save time.
Yeah.
So, I think I'm gonna start listening to my podcast like that as well.
Oh, test it out. Well, you sounded good from when I listened to it. So.
But that's the thing, like it's not like it's fast where you're missing things, right? You're still getting all the content that you would get listening to it at a normal speed, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's there's I'll go up and down depending on the podcast, and actually depending on the speaker. So some speakers I'm able to boost it up to like 3x. Some I gotta like slow down.
Yeah.
It depends on the podcast too. If it's like a deeper topic, something philosophical, something I don't know much about, I'll slow it down a little bit. But my goal is like, let's speed it up as much as possible so I really want to take in more information. And that's why, being on this with you, I'm excited, man, because there's so much you can learn from podcasts and the opportunity you get to I try to maximize all the time I get.
Yeah.
So any moment that I'm not doing something that needs my complete focus, I throw on a podcast, or I'll throw on an audiobook or something like that. So it's whether I'm driving somewhere, I'm washing the dishes, I'm walking, whatever, working out always. I love music. Mm-hmm. I love music. But podcasts, it's like maximize the time that you get to
see. I'm not like too big on music. I like music, right? But I'm not the type of person that's gonna put on something, while I'm working or doing something around the house. So I don't really listen to music like that. But a podcast, like I can always enjoy a good podcast, especially if it's like somebody that's interesting or a topic that I'm interested in. So yeah, podcast all day long, absolutely. But which ones do you listen to?
Oh man, dude. Now I listen to Bodu podcast.
Thanks,
that's for
man.
sure. I've caught every episode. I was looking forward to Boba's today. I got, but Jordan Peterson.
Okay.
Podcast is huge. When he was out, I mean, Jordan Peterson's been huge for me. I think I told you earlier. I don't know if you're recording or not, but you probably are. Huh?
we're in. We're
fantastic. No, it's perfect. Jordan Peterson's podcast is fantastic for me. He and the period that he was out was rough for me in many ways. It changed my life, but I listen to every episode. I don't think I've ever missed one of his episodes, and if I do, I go back and make sure I listen to it. Another guy I listen to a lot is Jason Stapleton. He's a libertarian background. I kind of grew with him too as he started out his podcast, and I grew with not that I know him, but when he started out, he was like talking about his libertarian politics, and then we kind of went to that point. Then he got into like his business side of things, and it was I kind of followed along with that, and that was a lot of that was at a perfect time for me going into law school, coming out of law school, thinking about like starting a firm or not. He kind of really opened my eyes to the fact that things we were talking about earlier. I think we had a great podcast before the mic was even on.
Yes, we did.
About the preparing for the future, being ready for what's coming, and knowing that you got to continually build your skills. You got to keep making yourself better, and that's going to bring you a career, a profession, a money. Things that you need to live, and that's a great thing. Because who wouldn't want to be able to continue learning? I don't understand. It's again earlier we were talking people that say that are bored. Yeah. There's so many things out there today. I just don't understand.
You made a good point where you said like, you can literally research anything you want, or you have Google, the browser, anything that you have an interest in, or if there's any kind of idea that sparks in your mind, right? You have the world in your hand, which is your phone, right? You can Google anything. We were talking about education too. Like you don't have to go to, you go to a college for the diploma, but like if you're trying to learn something, you don't have to go to school. Go to YouTube, go to Google, right? Research these topics, and the tools are out there for you to educate yourself on certain topics.
I mean, everything's out there.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's...
So how can you be bored in life?
How can you be bored? YouTube has been transformational, I think, for all of us. It's opened everything up. And all the tools that we have before us. Talking about the diplomas. When God willing we have kids, I want to make sure that they don't think that they have to go to college.
Right.
I'm being honest about that.
Yeah.
Unless they have to do something that degree is required, right? You want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer. Although I'm one of those guys that believes lawyers should not have to be licensed. I think, but that's part of that is my libertarian background, right? It's the fact that I see licensing as a barrier to entry. I think that, there's no reason a hairstylist needs to have a license to cut your hair, right?
Right.
Or a esthetician or whatever. I think if you're using chemicals and stuff, maybe, but there's a valid argument. But in most of the cases, it's just a barrier to entry. So, and now not only is it a barrier to entry, now we're seeing that these diplomas that you're getting out there, they're not bringing you value. You're studying things that, no offense to anybody, that may not be beneficial for your future. You're getting into yourself in a debt. I remember you were talking about your decision about not going to the doctor of physical therapy, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you did it was fantastic how you thought about that. The $100,000 that you're gonna have to put in the loan compared to how much you're gonna have to pay a month to pay it off for how many years and all that. It all made sense.
It all balances out.
Correct. And with these degrees now, you're coming out, you're not getting the education because you're not getting the education for the reason that, again, talking about what we were talking about earlier, we're being censored. You're being like kind of canceled. You're not allowed. There's taboo topics. Like there's always been taboo topics, but that's the point of university, is to talk about those topics, to learn about them, to learn what other people are thinking, to understand the world around us. And that's what a university degree is. Jordan Peterson, again, he talks about the biggest disservice that we've done, that universities have done to our society and to students that have gone through the experience, is not provide that, not explain the reason. And that's not just a university thing, that's a high school schooling thing. Why you learn. You don't learn for the grades. You don't learn because of the job. You learn to be more competent. You learn so you can function in this world. You learn so you can communicate better. Those are the things that you learn about. Bringing up my dad here for a second. When we came to the U.S., he was an engineer over there, and college educated, great. He had the great job, all that stuff out by us, and he came here and became a manual laborer, and nothing wrong with that at all. But we had this conversation, and he was like, I asked him, how are you able to handle that transition? Because I don't know if I would.
Right, going from being an engineer coming to a new world, a new country, and having to be a laborer.
Right. Not knowing the language, not knowing like all our families.
Right.
Right. And his thing, what he said was, in time to schooling, he said that the benefit was that I had the schooling, so I was able to adjust. It wasn't the fact that I learned about horticulture or whatever he was studying for. It was the fact that learning about those things expanded his mind, gave him the ability to run a business when he came here. Right, because you start off as a manual laborer. I think this goes for our community across the board. Everyone kind of starts there, and especially like the older generations that came like our parents, they had to start from scratch. They had to kind of build, and over time they kind of got to the point where you learn the skills to grow a business, and that's where tying kind of full circle. University doesn't give you that. When you said earlier, starting your own business is going to teach you more than an MBA degree is going to get you. Almost any other field is going to give you that experience. You're going to be able to just go start a business. And it's so easy. We were talking about earlier, you started a business for your podcast, right? Yeah. I started my business. I help people start their businesses. Right. It's very simple.
It's very simple. Like, it was something that I was asking around, who should I go to, to open up a business or a name or whatever. And really all I had to do was go on Google and type in, what do I have to do to open up a business? Why should I open up a business? Can I go without opening up an LLC? Right. So all these answers were on Google.
Right. And I had someone come in, wanted to start a business, like a smaller business. And I said, look, why would you pay me?
Yeah. Go do it yourself.
Correct. I said, I'm going to give you the link.
Yeah.
There's a company.
That's all it is. Yeah.
There's a company that does it for you. If you don't, the type of business that you're trying to open up, you don't need me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that kind of attorney. That's like the MO that attorneys get, is like this sleazy guy trying to take your money. And I said, that's not why I want to do this. So I said, I'm going to send you the link. Go start your business.
Yeah.
Now, when things get more complicated, You have more parties get involved. You want to restructure. You're trying to grow. That's the time you want to kind of call somebody that knows a little bit more about it. But at these early stages, there's no reason to do it. And so for people that are out there, start a business. Start a business not because it's easy or something like that. Start a business because I think we have to start businesses.
Yeah.
If you want to be who you want to be in the future, if you want to be able to speak your mind, if you want to be able to be comfortable in who you are, the best way to do that is to control the source of your income. And that's, I learned that from Jason Stapleton. That's that big MO. The future, you have to control the source of your income.
What do you mean by that exactly?
I think we can all see where a lot of this is going. We have these big mega corporations that have essentially cornered the markets across the board. You look at some of these charts of food production, and you think there's all these different brands, and it turns out that there's like 5 corporations that own all the food brands.
Right.
For example, I think it might be 5 or 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say perfect example. Like Coca-Cola owns all these other soft drinks, right?
Right.
All right, man. So sorry about that. First time this has ever happened. That my camera overheated, and we were literally like not even 10 minutes into it.
We gotta mess with Krčmarovic, first of all.
Yeah.
For him saying it was too cold.
Yeah.
Me and Bojo and Krčmarovic, we got it so hot in here, the camera's turned off. Or what more might be the case is we start talking about corporations and all that stuff, and boom,
got canceled
right away.
Fuck, bro.
I told you you're gonna. Now, kind of tie it back to the podcast. I was very excited to be on this podcast with you, man, because I know you since we were little. Mm-hmm. I know your family, man. Grew up with you. Been to your Slava. You've been to mine. We played together. I still feel bad about kicking your ball that one time. I don't know if you remember that, dude. Over the fence.
I briefly, not too visually, but I remember chasing after.
Oh man, dude, Draga was so mad at me. I remember. I still feel bad about that. But
I was gonna ask you, are you still picking on kids smaller than you?
I was small. I was smaller than everybody else. You were, I think, taller than me at that time.
I don't know, man.
I think you were taller.
But that's a great story.
Yeah, but the reason I say is, seeing this whole setup you got going, man, and seeing the way that you've done these podcasts before, your studio, your personality, your passion. I'm very excited because I think I'm in the early stages of someone that's on the rise, man. That's on a big rise, and I think you're gonna do great things. And when I was excited for you when you said you're gonna announce the podcast, but I'm even more excited as like I've seen the podcast, because I told you I'm a podcast connoisseur.
Yeah.
Now I'm not I don't know everything about it.
Sure.
But you can see things that are good, and see things that have made others successful. Mm-hmm. And I think you're doing that across the board. And you got the Joe Rogan look.
Is it the hair?
You got the Joe Rogan personality. You're smart. You're interested in what you're talking about. You're genuine. Mm. And like he said, and we talked about earlier, he said when he started, he was just chatting with his buddies.
Right. And
look where he's at now. 5 million, 10 million views per episode. I mean, dwarfing all the others combined. And that's what you're doing. Yeah. And so you said that in your first, the first or last one?
Yeah, first episode probably I mentioned it. But, man, thank you. Those are really kind words, honestly.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
I mean, we've been in contact ever since I announced it. And you've been nothing but supportive. And honestly, like when friends reach out to friends and with kind words and encouragement, it just makes me want to keep going. And it makes me realize that, there is a purpose to this.
That's right.
To this podcast. I'm not doing it for, I don't even know, fame, money, like none of that bullshit, right? I'm doing it to have these conversations with people. And as we mentioned, as we talked earlier, like, there's so many of us Serbians, and not just Serbians, but people from the Balkan community. There's so many of us here. But if we're talking about Serbians, like you said, we can get 1,000 people, 1,000 different episodes. Absolutely. For the podcast.
Fantastic guests.
Yeah.
Not just like room fillers, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's what you said, like fantastic guests, not just anybody, right? People that are smart, educated. There's so many of us here. But like when you said that, I was like, Really? You think so? Like we can get that many people? But then when you said like through your organization that you had started, how your network just became so much bigger, there is people like that around, in the United States. There are Serbian and there are educated and just like yourself.
Not a lot of people smarter than me for sure, but that's what I've learned. But but that's the whole thing. That's what you're doing. What you're doing is so positive. It's the fact that I think there's so many good people in our community, and so many positive people, but we get the bad rap.
Why is that? Like, why is that? Why do we have a bad rep within each other, right? Like you said, there's that saying, that Srpska Posla.
Yeah.
Right? Why is that? Like, why do we have a? It's not that we have a bad rep from an outside community, right? Looking in, we have a bad rep within each other.
Our own worst enemies.
Yeah.
Our own worst enemies. I think there's many reasons. One, I think it's human nature.
Yeah.
I think there's that across the board, all different groups of people, whether it's Jewish, Croatian, I think that's the ones we always look at, or the Bosniak communities, the Albanian, they all look great from the outside, but inside they have the same issues. And that's just more of a human nature type thing.
Yeah.
But I also think that, there's something we kind of mentioned, it's the Srpska Posla. We're perpetuating this idea by constantly repeating it. And so when we're repeating it, you're kind of bringing it into reality.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you're coming into, your parents are telling you, your family's telling you, your friends are telling you, Srpska Posla, pazi, be careful who you're working with, or maybe, kind of avoid working with Serbian people at times. And, so that always sits in the back of your mind. So then you meet somebody new that's Serbian, and you come into that initial meeting, and maybe you want to be open. But that is already there, whether you know it or not, subconsciously or not.
Right.
That idea is there.
It's in the back of your head.
Correct. And if you got two people that are thinking that same way, you're already doomed for failure.
Yeah.
The relationship is doomed for failure, and there's no reason that it has to be. And not only because we're not unique in that, but because of the fact that there are so many great people in our community that we can work together and really do well.
Yeah.
Really do well. And there's no reason that we shouldn't do well. And when one of the things when we were starting SALC, and now I've kind of stepped back from that a little bit, but when we started that was the idea. Like, let's work together. Let's be like the Jewish community. Let's, and that comes from my parents, big time. My dad, always. Because we always had political conversations since I was little. That's why I like politics. That's why I like philosophy. That's why I like life. Whether it's my parents, with my grandparents, my great grandmas, my brother, even my wife. I'm talking philosophy, I'm talking politics, all this stuff. But like he said, the goal, my dad's specifically, because growing up, I always loved being Serbian. It was the war and all those things happening. And it was just always important to me, hearing the stories of my grandparents, my great grandparents, what they went through. I felt like I felt tied to it. Yeah. And so then I thought, okay, how do I show my Serbianness, right? And so then you're watching these things on TV or the VHSs back in the day. It's the war fighting, or you see like the drinking, or you see the drinking and you see like partying, right? And you get this perception that is what it means to be a Serb, right? But like my dad said, that's not what you want to be a Serb. He loved to have a good time. He still likes to have a good time, but there was a period where he stopped, kind of right around my age right now, and because he realized, I think, what life's about. And he said, you want to make Serbs move forward? You want to do well for the Serbian people? You want to leave a message? Look at the Jewish community. Look at the Jews as an example for you. Yeah, that's who you want to emulate. Those are the things that you want to do. You want to be successful in business.
What are they doing? Yeah, that's making your dad say that.
Yeah, I think, what are they not doing is the question. They've permeated every industry. They permeate everything. There are historical reasons, I think, for that, which is a little bit deeper, because we can get into it or not. But the Catholic Church was the churches were afraid of dealing with money. It was seen like sinful. So then they looked at ways to have the Jews to kind of run the banks and have that, so that they wouldn't have to do that. So that was a little bit of that. And that's part of the reason that there's like sometimes a bad view of Jews, because of this kind of historical thing with them having money. But regardless, for them, it's, they help each other. Yeah. They might not like each other. They have the same things, like I said, that they deal with. But when it comes to it, they're going to call, if they got a job or they need something done, they're looking for somebody from the Jewish community. Yeah. To help them with that. And they're boosting each other up because they've recognized the name of the game. The name of the game before and in the future especially is community. Mm-hmm. You know, we've kind of been blinded by this thought of individually we can do these things. There's no way. You need a community. And what they've realized is by boosting each other up, they are naturally boosted as well. So it's the rising tide idea, right? Mm-hmm. If the more of us get successful, the rest of us are going to be successful as long as we kind of pull everybody up with us.
Yeah.
And there's going to be people, that's life. There's going to be people that get higher up. There's going to be people that do better. Mm-hmm. That's normal. That's natural. People are more talented. People work harder. Mm-hmm. You know, I hope everyone is better than me and you and all of us.
Right.
Because again, that means that we're going up too with them. And if we got more people in more industries and we're all connected through this podcast, through organizations, whatever it may be, then we're all going to win.
We have the people,
right?
You know,
yeah.
We just gotta stick together and kind of make it better.
Yeah,
right.
And especially in this time.
Yeah.
And this is a global thing. The community thing is going to be crucial. You know, we were talking about like the corporations and all that stuff.
Why do you say that? Why do you think and what do you mean by the community thing? Just having a strong community is going to be crucial? Having
people that regardless of what happens, are going to support you.
Yeah.
We are moving into dangerous times. You know, you have to have people that think like you, people that can understand you, people that can catch you if you fall. And you know, and you catch them. Right? Because whether the future goes that way or not on purpose, it's going to be like that. Blockchain tech, for example, which I'm very passionate about, and crypto, those things are going to be naturally community-based. I mean, it's essentially what's happening right now. You do have people that kind of bleach over into different communities, but you have communities growing around Bitcoin. You have communities growing around Ethereum. You have communities growing around Cardano, Luna, Terra, right? There's communities being built, and these communities are only going to go across the board. Whether it's in business or whatever, we're in a remote world.
Yeah,
you can be in Singapore and in Berwyn, right? And you can still have a community. It's not about location. It's not about geography anymore.
Yeah.
It's about what do you like? What are the things you want to do? Who are the people that can help you? And now we're global, so community allows you to be able to kind of pursue your dreams, whether it's a podcast or starting a business or making a difference or change in life, finding people that agree with you. I think those are...
I think having a community like on the social media world, right? Or, you know, on the internet.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't have a community like that. I mean, first of all, we don't even have a community physically, right? That's nice and strong.
Yeah.
But we don't have a community online either. And those communities come through certain organizations like SELC, podcasts. You know, there's different the student organization.
Yeah.
What's that one called?
SASO.
SASO, yeah.
Serbian-American Student Organization.
I think what they're doing is awesome.
One of the first things I did, I called them.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to help.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot, but I said, I gained a lot of experience in the last 2 years from SALC. Whether practical or whether the emotional side of things, right? The politics, the things we were talking about earlier, the fact that some Serbs just cannot deal with the fact that they see someone doing better. They're going to face that. So I called them and I wanted to just be like, let me be a resource for you in any way, because I want to change that mindset. I want it to get to a point where people feel comfortable saying, I want to call Aco, I want to call Božo, I want to call Jovica, I want to call Nikola. Whatever my issue is, they have the experience, and I shouldn't be afraid to call them because they're going to not help me, or they're going to use my inexperience against me, or you know, talk down to me, or unmotivate me.
Yeah.
No, they're going to do the exact opposite. They're going to help me.
Right.
So that's how we got to break the mold. We got to do it person by person, and then slowly, I think we'll change the community. But I think there's a big shift. The thing that I saw in the last 2 years is people recognize that there's a need for these organizations. There's a need for the community, and young people are interested in it.
Yeah.
And that's I think a global thing. We're in this space right now where they pushed individualism to such an extent that there's no end. Right? We're losing our humanity. I was doing a a political thing in an indie show, and we were talking about Russia and Ukraine, and you know, in that topic, it's about how we've gotten to where we are now. You know, we're not talking about human rights. We're not talking about humanity anymore. We're moving into this phase of post-humanity. And that's the essential outcome of what hyperindividualism is. Mm-hmm. Hyperindividualism has no end. You know, because
what is hyperindividualism?
Now we're getting into deep stuff. I know this is so deep for the podcast. I think that everyone's going to turn it off right now.
Briefly.
Yeah. Sandra's going to be like, "Why you got to talk about that stuff all the time?" Because I love it.
Who's Sandra?
Sandra's my wife.
Okay.
Sandra's my wife. Every time I start politics,
I knew who she was, but you know,
for the
podcast, I asked.
Yeah, for the people that are maybe interested in listening to what I have to say, which I'd be surprised at. But you know, hyperindividualism is just like this. What I would characterize it as is like this constant focus on ourselves, on the ego, who we are, and you know, essentially like a hedonism. You know, like going through life thinking that the only purpose in life is pleasure.
Right.
And the only purpose, if you go down that path, there's no to the pleasure, right? We know that biologically. Mm-hmm. That's the problem with sometimes our phones and social media is it taps into that.
It's pleasure.
And it drains your natural ability to do these things. And so you kind of constantly got to keep pushing the limit of the pleasure that you need to get. Mm-hmm. And what does that result in? You know, kind of the society we live in today, disconnected, unhappy, marriages struggling, men struggling, women struggling, you know, all these things that for thousands, you know, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, millions of years of evolution, billions that have come, that are naturally been built up, are being thrown away in a small amount of time because of this hyper-individualism. And this hyper-individualism now resulted in this post-humanity where we lose all sense of who we are to be human. And I don't want any part of that.
Right.
And there was a period that I was very interested in that stuff. I'm always I am very much about progress and all these things. That's what people don't understand. But and these things called transhumanism, where it's like this idea of the next phase of human evolution is the merging of man and machine. And I was very passionate about that because I thought it would solve a lot of problems. Like if we can solve disease and solve death, I think it would alleviate a lot of this fear that people have and jealousy and envy and all these things. But you know, the phase that we're moving in now is something that's different. It's not about that anymore. You know, it's about destroying everything that makes us who we are. Yeah. And I think there's something beautiful about being human. I think there's something beautiful about this conversation.
Absolutely.
You know, we're talking about a great podcast before the podcast was going, you know, about life.
Yeah.
You know, about why like free speech is important, why conversation is important, why having ideas, even if you don't have the ideas, even if you don't believe in them, being able to discuss them are so important. Because that's what leads us to the future.
Yeah.
You know, that's what leads us to progress. And kind of, I think, tying it back in, that's why community is important. Mm-hmm. Because this phase of hyper-individualism, this post-humanity, it's hurting where, you know, it's hurting who we are as humans. It's hurting that. But community allows you to find like-minded people. Mm-hmm. Allows me and you to stay connected. Allows people that are interested in hearing what you have to say. Allows them to connect with you and chat about those things and do things to make themselves better. I know that's a big rant and it's kind of very disconnected all over the place, but
I mean, those are the type of conversations I love.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Yeah, me too. All over the place. But that's the thing. Hopefully we'll be all over the place.
Yeah.
And by going all over the place, we'll get to somewhere.
We'll get somewhere. Absolutely.
Somebody will quote that on Twitter, please.
If we're not all over the place, if we're not trying to go all over the place, how are we going to get anywhere?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but that's the thing, man.
Yeah.
And community is going to allow you to do that because look, there's some people that are not going to want that life.
Yeah.
They want to maybe go forward with the world that we're going at right now, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of scares me about this whole political situation that we're in. Not to talk about politics, but it's the fact that we've kind of gotten to the point where we're getting completely disconnected. Mm-hmm. So we have a conflict, and I think this is rolling over into every single aspect of our lives. Cancel culture, right? It's like social media and has now permeated everything. You don't like what somebody says, I block them.
Right.
They're done. I don't want to hear them. It's over. Now we're doing that on a global scale. Yeah. We're saying, I don't like what they're doing. We're canceling them. You know, Russia's canceling Ukraine, or U.S. is canceling Russia. You know, it's all across the board. And, you know, why?
That's not good.
No. That's not how we can function. That's not how we should function.
Yeah. I mean, we should be able to hear, different sides.
Correct.
Different point of view. Twitter, Instagram, all these Facebook, they're all, they're blocking people for, having an opinion that doesn't align with theirs.
Right.
And I understand they're private companies, so the freedom of speech doesn't apply to them, right? Is that how it goes?
No,
it should apply,
yeah.
but since they're
freedom
a
of speech
private,
does,
right? Since they're a private company, they have the right to block people or cut them off, or
depending on their terms of service, right? There are legal barriers, right? And our Constitution should protect it in some cases. I think we have good protections on that right now, but it's the fact, and they're still following the law. It's the fact that they're not adhering to their actual terms of service is the problem, I think, overall. Yeah. So they're saying one thing but doing another.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to get canceled, so maybe we should.
Let's get away. Let's get away.
Tell me a little bit about SALC.
Yeah.
And what it stands for and the purpose and.
Yeah. So when we started it, it was very interesting how it all started. There was an event when I was I think just finished my first year of law school. At 100 years anniversary of the Serbian flag being lifted over the White House, and I saw Spaz posted actually a flyer on Facebook, right? So the social media can't be good. Posted a flyer, and I was like, I got to go to this. And so I got Georgie, my brother, and we went to DC for this event. And this event, again, I felt like I knew a lot of the community, Serbian community across the U.S. But I went to this event, and I was like, I don't know it nearly as many as I thought.
Yeah.
And not only do I not know as nearly as many as I thought, I didn't know that there was this many successful, influential Serbs in our community. And the event was so fantastic. We had such great connections, I think, across the board. We came back. I actually went to the Vladika Irine, who's the Eastern Diocese Vladika, and I said, Bishop Irine, I would love to participate in any way to do something with this. Like, continue this regularly. Let's figure out a way that we can do something. And so we came back, and that event was organized by Neno Djuricic. And shout out to Neno, who's going to be tonight with us. I think Neno is probably the most underrated person in our community. I think he's the key to our community success in the U.S. He has so many good connections, powerful, good connections, and he's good-hearted. He does good things. He organized essentially almost that whole event. But anyways, so we came back. So I just wanted to give him a shout out on that because he was the inspiration for SALC, and he was a key part. And so we came back. We started. We exchanged numbers. Vladika, Neno, I, Chika Branko Terzic. He started introducing me to some people. Ilijana Todorovic, one specifically. She's an attorney in Louisiana, and so we started having these meetings, and we were figuring out like, how do we capitalize on this? What can we do with this? And so we figured part of the reason so it was twofold, right? One was let's connect. Let's bring all these people together. Let's motivate our community and kind of connect and do well for each other. And the other part was, how do we get to the part where we all ended up here in the United States in the first place? It was the fact that we were unorganized. There were some organizations that were going at the time, but they just didn't have the support that they needed and the cohesiveness that they needed. And so we were behind the PR game. We were behind in the advocacy game compared to the Croatians, the Bosniaks, and everybody else. And so the goal was, let's do two things. Let's get our community active civically, because I think that's an important thing to do. That's again, talking about community, talking about building the life that you want for yourselves, for your family, for your children on that one end, and being able to influence that. So united, we're stronger on that point. And then the other was obviously out of that, you grow these connections, whether professional, personal, and so on and so forth. And so those were the kind of two things. And then, so we just got together and we decided, okay, let's try this. And so we were holding these kind of informal meetings, discussing like what we're going to do. And all of a sudden we had the big thing happen in Montenegro, in Crna Gora, with the passage of the law on religious property. We weren't kind of ready for everything that was happening at that time. Like, we weren't really set up for what we were doing, but that kind of pushed the envelope. And so we had to say, okay, now we're going. And so when that happened, we kind of threw everything together.
What happened exactly in Crna Gora that kind of helped, or not helped, but put you guys in a different mode to kind of speed up?
Yeah. So again, being who we are as Serbs and fighting for justice always, regardless of what anybody says, it's not about, what they were trying to say is, having the influence of the Serbian Orthodox Church in Montenegro or anything like that. That was far from the truth. What was in fact was the opposite. It was discrimination against the Serbian people, and specifically the Serbian Orthodox Church, who they saw as kind of unduly influencing the Montenegro and trying to kind of reunite Montenegro back with Serbia or this and that. So what they were doing was they were passing these laws and agreeing with these other religious communities in Montenegro about how they could practice and they're making, like in the U.S., right? But the Serbian part the Serbian Orthodox Church wasn't afforded the same rights, right? And they were afforded different rights. They were afforded in terms of being able to take their rights, the registering and all these different things. And so it was not right. And they needed the support because historically, the U.S. calls the shots. Let's be serious. And we needed to do what we could from our end, the U.S. side, across the board, whether it was SALC or anybody else, to change that. And our community did. It was amazing. It wasn't just SALC. The first event that I went to was organized by all the churches in Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. And it was primarily Illinois and Indiana, but we did a procession in Northwest Indiana from one of the churches to the other church. And it was amazing. It was probably one of the most powerful moments of my life.
What kind of changes did you guys make? What was the most impact that you've had? Like you said, in this scenario, you guys had an impact. What kind of impact did you have?
I think for SALC, for the first time, the Montenegrin people, whether Serb or Montenegrins or whoever, were free from Milo Đukanović. His government, for the first time in 30 years, became a minority in the parliament, and that was a relief in itself. It was like this hope of, we're kind of breaking out of this whole 90s era of dictators, authoritarians, selfish people, and we're allowing, not pro-Serb, not pro-anybody, but just allowing the truth, giving everybody the opportunity to live fairly. That's what it was all about. And that's, I think, for me, was the coolest part about that. Again, we weren't lobbying, which is very tricky, but we were doing a lot of advocacy. We were part of that advocacy was writing letters to people of Congress, getting our community to get out there and write letters as well to the members of Congress. And part of it was holding kind of these interviews. when that was like right around the time of the pandemic started, we had this opportunity. Everyone was stuck at home. Zoom just popped up. And we had this great opportunity to capitalize on it. And we were just very quick on that. So we started reaching out to Serbian ambassador and U.S. ambassador in Serbia, the Crown Prince, the President of Republika Srpska, Željko Cvijanović, Vuk Jeremić, Vuk Marinković, or Dr. Marinković, Vladimir Marinković. So we had people from all across the political spectrum in Serbia, in the U.S., kind of coming on doing these interviews, talking about these topics, informing them about kind of the situation that was happening, specifically on the U.S. side, telling them why and why not this wasn't fair. And Ilijana Todorović, who was, SALC wouldn't have been as successful as it was in the last 2 years without Neno Đorđević and Ilijana Todorović. Those are two incredible assets to our community, incredible people, very smart, very successful personally and professionally. Ilijana did this amazing video, 45 minutes, legal breakdown about the law, and we sent that out to a bunch of people in Congress and others to get informed on the situation, on what it really is on the ground. That's not what they're hearing.
What's actually going on over
What's
there.
actually going on, and not the one-sided story of that typically happens.
Yeah. So the organization gave a voice to all these other individuals,
right?
And with the organization, like you said, writing letters and just speaking up on this topic, you guys were able to kind of make some changes or have an impact. Yeah,
because in a sense, what it did was after, the Serbian Unity Congress, that was the organization, Serbian Unity Congress, I think there was maybe one more before that, we had like a gap of no organizations, other than Serbian National Defense, who was like one of the oldest, that we have in the U.S., second oldest. And they've always been great, and they're still around. They're still doing great work. But
shout out to your Kumic, right? Kumic.
Yeah, that's right.
Or starting a podcast.
Correct. Yeah, Jovan Selakovic. Yeah, he's same thing. People changing the world, man.
Yeah.
With their voice, but that's the thing. It's bringing legitimacy. Whether it's a person or whether it's an organization, it brings legitimacy to your topic. It shows others. Shows the State Department. Shows the White House.
That you guys that we're involved.
Correct.
That we have a voice.
That we're actually there. So if there is a one-sided policy, you don't expect us to just sit by and not react. And not only that, be cognizant of the fact that we'll vote a certain way depending on how those outcomes are, right?
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. And so that's really what we were trying to do with Salk. I think we were very successful in a lot of things and made a lot of good connections. But it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard running those things because you gotta balance your professional life with the things you're passionate about.
Yeah.
And I think you're kind of in this phase. I think everyone else is in this phase, but it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's you got to kind of do these things that you maybe don't want to do sometimes to get to the point where you get to do the things that you do want to do.
Yeah.
Whether make inspiring people like you're trying to do, or whether you're trying to make political change, or whether you're trying to be maximize your impact on the world.
Right.
You gotta feed yourself, right? You gotta put a roof over your head. You gotta feed your family. You gotta do those things, but you take the opportunity like you are here. Look at it. I mean, we're hanging out.
Yeah.
We're gonna party tonight.
It's
Serbian night.
It's a Saturday. I'm not working, but
right.
we're having a nice little conversation.
You're following your dream.
Absolutely. And then we're gonna party tonight.
Correct. And then the goal is you keep doing these things for fun until you get to the point where this is your job.
Right.
And that's that's what this is all about.
Yeah.
And there's no reason, we were talking about that earlier. There's no reason, and I know we're kind of going on a tangent here. There's no reason to not do this today.
Yeah. No.
There's a concept called, there's a fantastic book called 1,000 True Fans. And the idea behind this whole thing is there's 7 billion people in the world. You only need 1,000 people to give you $100 to make 6-figure salary. Mm-hmm. If you can't find 1,000 people that are interested in what you're putting forward, then you got to reassess.
Yeah.
And that's a great challenge to have. Think about having the opportunity to do what you love and make a living off of it, and you only need 1,000 fans to give you $100. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds much simpler than it really is, but it should be like what you're doing. It's motivating. Yeah. It motivated you. It motivated me with starting my firm. These are the things. Do the challenge.
It's what's motivating is the opportunities, right? There's opportunities, and as long as you, like we talked, as long as you put in the work, I mean, you're gonna be somewhat successful, right? As long as you put in your 100%, no matter what it is that you're doing, if you're putting in 100%, you will see results.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what it comes down to: just finding out what you're passionate about. Figuring out how to get there, right? Whatever it can be, like losing weight, right? What do I got to do to lose weight? I got to do this. I got to eat right. I got to do this. I got to go to bed at this time, right? There's a schedule that you follow, and then you just stick to it.
Yep.
And it's the same thing with your law firm, with the podcast, with anything. If you want to be good at something, you figure out how to get there, what kind of steps you got to take, and then just do it. It's not that hard. You just fucking put in the work.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. And and putting in the work now to follow your dreams. Yeah. There's never been a better time.
Right.
You have we were talking about, you have all the resources possible. And not only that, you have such apathy. People don't want to work anymore. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what's happening, right? Everyone is, it's social media. It's our phones. They've gotten us to this thing of where we don't have any time preference. It's all got to be now. Yeah. There's no buildup. So if you can't have it now, it's not worth it. It's so easy, right? You just swipe. Yeah. If I want to buy something, I don't got to get up and go anywhere. I just go on Amazon.
I think that's very convenient, though.
I do too. No, I do too. But what we have to do is separate. We have to separate what that is and not let that pour over into other aspects of our life. I love that stuff. Yeah. I want to be more and more efficient. Yeah. Technology allows me to be more efficient, but you got to prevent that from rolling over to other things, like where you don't feel you got to put in the effort, you don't got to feel put in the work, and so there's a great time to do it, and he should believe in the ability to do it. Yeah. There's a James Allen, one of the guys that I love to read. I read James Allen every morning. Every morning, James Allen. There's a book called As a Man Thinketh.
What's it called?
As a Man Thinketh. And this book was very instrumental in kind of changing my life around 2016, 2015. A lot of things changed my life around 2015, 2016. But that one was one book that really did. And it was it's like 32 pages. I think it's 32 pages that will change everybody's life. And so many great concepts. But in that one, he talks about a young man who works in a shop. And so the idea is, even if you don't have a goal or whatever it may be, just keep striving, keep going forward. So he's talking about this young man who's got this big goal, but he's working this shop. But while he's working this shop, he continues to have a good mindset. And he continues to work hard and kind of look to the future. And naturally, because of him doing that, looking forward to the future, making himself better, he outgrows the shop. And so then he grows into the next phase of his life. And so that's the thing. Even if you put in the work and you're kind of building yourself up, you're going to outgrow it no matter what.
Right.
And that's been the story, I think, of my life. I think it's for everybody.
I like that, because even if you put in the work for something, right? But if you fail, you still learned. Even though you failed, you still learned so much along the way.
It sounds so cliche, right?
Right. Because
failure, right?
Yeah.
Failure teaches progress.
Yeah, and that's the way, that's how I looked at this too. Because even if I don't have a follower in 2-3 years, along the way I'll have met so many people and learned so many things that it's gonna be worth it. And then just because this idea failed, you go to the next one, and you go to that next idea with what you have learned from your first try, right? And you just kind of get better and better and better.
No, that's exactly how you got to look at it. If you're not failing, then you're not doing something right.
Right.
Which is ironic, but it's the truth. Because you gotta get to that point. Because if you're not failing, that means you're not trying.
Yeah.
Or you're in a place where you're too comfortable.
Or you don't want to try. You're scared to try because of failure.
Correct. Yeah. But why?
I love failure though. I mean, I have my buddy Duško.
Yeah.
Me and him are so competitive at everything. And for example, ping pong, he beats, I can't touch him at ping pong. I think he's at 96-0 or 100-0. He's got 100 wins on me and I have 0 wins on him. But what I'm trying to say is, I love the fact that I'm trying to beat him, right? That for some reason losing also feels good, because it just makes you want to work harder.
Yeah. It not only doesn't want to make you work harder, but it gives you the tools to be able to get
Sharpens
better.
you up.
Sharpens you up.
Yeah.
And look, there was a period in my life where I was really struggling, and part of the reason I was struggling was death. I was terrified of death, terrified of my mortality, terrified of everyone around me dying. It was paralyzing, very paralyzing. And once I kind of got to that point where I realized, look, this is inevitable, man. This is inevitable. To all the people out there, it's going to happen. And don't look at it as in a negative way.
Right.
Look at it as in freeing you in this life, freeing you to fail, freeing you to try, freeing you to be unafraid, freeing you to follow that dream.
Yeah.
This is you got nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
Because at the end of the game, Jim Rohn talks about this. He has a great one. He talks about this. He says at the end, he's like, look, because I got to tell you at the end, you're still gonna die, right? So it's and that's 100% true, and that's a story as old as time. The Stoics talked about that. It's about the fact that you are gonna die.
Yeah.
So live your life in this moment in the best way possible. Strive for something.
Yeah.
Because the latest thing you want to do, I can't remember, it was Les Brown. I, as you can tell, I listen to a lot of podcasts, listen to a lot of lectures. Like you, I don't watch any more TV or movies.
It's probably one. Well, I mean, I still enjoy a good movie on a weekend.
Yeah.
But during the week, I cut out TV as much as I can.
Right.
And it's awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I agree. Because it gives me the opportunity to watch these kind of lectures.
But what I do got to cut down is the phone.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, bro. Anyways,
guilty as charged.
Yeah, that's beyond the point where we're kind of taking a
guilty as charged.
Yeah, you too.
Oh, bad. So much. No, so much. But there's good and bad. We're talking about personality, right? Yeah. I was telling you, spent the last couple of years really trying to understand myself. I need it's tough for me to focus sometimes because I have so many interests. Because I am so passionate about life. I'm passionate about everything. I'm passionate about the opportunity to learn something new every moment. Yeah. And so social media is very bad when it comes to that. It's very distracting. I'll look at my phones. It'll go all over the place. So it's bad. But but saying that, the Les Brown thing, is I think it's really key is you said, you know, at your deathbed. I just really want to stress this point. When you go big and people look back at this episode maybe in like 10 years and say, there was maybe one good thing that he said, and it's literally this: try, because like Les Brown said, the last thing you want to do is have a regret at your deathbed of something about something that you didn't try to do, something that you didn't try start a business, that you didn't try to do what you were passionate about.
Yeah.
You know, and again, it sounds cliche. Everyone can't be passionate, but you can do things in that small amount of time where you're distracted anyways. Let's be serious. We're all distracted with social media. We're all distracted with something. If it's not social media, it's something else that we're wasting our time. Use those moments, even if it's 5-10 minutes a day, make yourself better. I try to do 30 minutes a day at least of doing those kind of things. Yeah. You know, reading James Allen, then reading another book, meditating, you know, doing things, taking a cold shower, you know, going out for a workout. Like do those things because don't regret it, because it'll be later you'll regret it. Right? Yeah. Even though those aren't professional things or goal-oriented things, they're things like for down the line. Why not be healthy? Why not prolong? Why not feel good about yourself? You know, do all these things. That's, you know, the body image.
It's one life, one body.
Yeah.
Right. It's one life. Create your own opportunities.
Right.
Go after what you want to do. One body. Take care of your body.
For sure.
You know, if you're not gonna take care of your body and your life, who else is gonna do it?
Yeah. Being too guru here. Sorry, Bojo.
No, you're good. You're good. No, man, you're good. But going back to SALC, is this still an up and running organization?
So I've been trying to kind of pass it off to somebody. It's been impossible.
And why? Why are you trying to pass it off? Is it because you're just too busy, or is there other things?
I'm very busy.
Okay.
But I'm a perfectionist.
Uh-huh.
And so I don't like to do something half-ass. And that is something that I am passionate about, but I know I can't put in the time necessary. And so until we get to the point where it can become a something that pays a salary and pays a wage, it's hard to do. So, you know, trying to pass it on to somebody else, because you know, the last 2 years have been insane, I think, just like for everybody else. Yeah. Especially, I hit 2 bar exams, graduating law school, starting a firm, you know, working at a bigger firm, then starting my own firm. It just became like too much. Yeah. And it needs time. You have to be dedicated to it. It takes significant time.
It's one of those things that you have to continue to do, put in work, you know, in order for it to grow. Yeah.
There's social media aspects. Right. So you got to build a team. And the hard part is you got to build a team of people, volunteers. Yeah. That are also have things going on in their lives, and they're preoccupied. And they're trying to build a career, especially because the fact is mostly young professionals, and so it's not this. These are all people that are growing, and so you got to put in extra time in the beginning. You know, later it's easier, but you know, it's all people that are doing extra time, and it's hard to get people to motivate them to figure out what works without them feeling some kind of incentive or something.
I mean, I like what the organization is, what it stands for, and this is something that I've thought about before too, where I'm like, why doesn't our Serbian community here and in other parts of the world, you know, outside of Serbia, why don't we have a voice when it comes to politics here and politics back home? You know, why don't we have a voice because there's so many of us outside of Serbia. Why don't we all have a voice on what's going on with Serbia back home? I know we're not living there, but I feel like we're in a position to help Serbia back home, right?
Much more than the Serbs in Serbia.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the whether we like it or not, the U.S. still dictates foreign policy.
Right.
And so
having an organization like this here that's so involved.
Correct.
It can only help.
That's right. And look, there's other organizations out there.
Yeah.
SAVA is another one. You know, SND, Serbian National Defense. Now we have the SASO. You know, there's organizations that are growing, that are out there. We gotta tie it all back. We gotta stop being our own worst enemy.
And we all gotta. I know there's different organizations, but we all gotta work together as one.
That was the vision that I had for SALC.
Yeah.
So the big thing in the beginning was all this kind of Montenegro, political, let's connect individually, all that. But the goal was SALC to be an umbrella organization where every single organization had a representative. And those groups worked together.
Mm-hmm.
Those people worked together. You got to coordinate. You got to organize.
Yeah.
And look, if you want to coordinate and organize, there's got to be a leader. I'm sorry. Look, it doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be me.
Right.
It doesn't have to be me.
There has to be a leader, though.
There has to be a leader, though. And people in our community have to recognize the fact that there's got to be a leader.
Yeah.
And so you got to set ego aside sometimes. And you got to try to pick the leader that's going to be the best one for the job.
Right.
The one that's going to be the fairest, that's going to be, do the right thing, that you can trust, that's hardworking, understands what's happening, and going that way. And that's going to not be egocentric, right? Push it for themselves.
Yeah.
And that was, there was a struggle with SALC, big time for that stuff. I'm sure these other organizations are going to struggle with the same thing. Visos Mune, 100%. Don't let me forget Visos Mune, who have been doing incredible work for forever. I was in the early stages with that too, and Felipe and Milo and I think Snezhana Dimitrijevic and all these people. They're doing.
You were involved in that too?
In the beginning, me, Felipe, and Shreyat were chatting about that stuff, and life though, right?
Right.
That was around that time where I was dealing with death, right? Look at death,
fear of death,
the Grim Reaper right in the eyes. But those are the things that. Yeah, I'm serious. Scary times, but powerful times.
Yeah.
But getting to the point where everyone works together, man.
Yeah.
Because look, that's the problem. Think about how many organizations we have now. If the presidents of all those organizations would just put their egos aside. Mm-hmm. And say, let's work together. Look, it's understandable, right? SND has been around for how many 100 years, 100 plus years. We get it, right? There's hierarchy. Some organizations have been more successful than others, but we don't have to look at it in a way,
one is better than the other. One has more impact than the other. No, we're all here for the same reason.
Correct.
Put your ego aside.
Right.
Realize that we're all in here to do one thing, and it's to help each other out, help people around us out, and help our friends, family, and our people back home.
That's right.
Why can't we all just unite?
I mean, it's again.
It's
common.
Yeah,
right?
It's like common sense. You know what I mean?
It's because you are limited. Manpower is limited. Resources are limited.
Yeah.
The people that are interested in being active, we got to work together.
Yeah.
We got to work together. If you want to be successful, no matter what organization you are, no matter what you represent, whatever you do, we got to work together.
Yeah.
Because there's, like we said, some people that are either too afraid to do it or are not in a good position. They're not in a position to be able to do it. They're supporting their family, whatever. But the ones that don't have to do that or that are in a different, better position, mm-hmm. they should come together. You got to come together and set egos aside. Everyone's got to kind of, me, you, whoever it is.
But if you're passionate about helping people, right? Or if you're passionate about making a difference, then having that success or whatever that should not matter. Right? If let's say if you have an organization and you have 1 million followers and I have 100, we're both in this together. We're both in this to make a difference, right? With this podcast, I went into it because I want to, promote our people and spread positivity and all that. So there shouldn't, we're in this together. We have the same goals. We have the same visions. So because you're doing better than me, why does that matter? That should not matter. We're both doing the same thing. We both have the same vision. But did you run into these problems with SELC?
Absolutely.
Where people were kind of jealous or they were standing in the way of your success?
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah. Because that's why I kind of brought it up, because I don't want to bring it up because, again, it's like it's one of those things. We were talking about Srpska Posla. You don't want to perpetuate something, but we got to recognize what the problems are. Mm. We face that all the time. There were so many times that I was so stressed about stuff that I was hearing or people messaging me or emailing me. It's things that I was hearing about what people were saying. I'm like, why guys? Why do we need this?
Yeah.
Why? I was at that time that I was doing this. I was trying to graduate law school.
Yeah.
I almost, and I'm a little bit embarrassed, but I'm not. But right. I almost didn't graduate law school on a pass-fail semester because of the pandemic, because I was putting in so much time into SELC.
Yeah.
Because I was so passionate about it. because I actually believe in doing good things. And not only do I believe in it, I hate talking about myself, but I have a pure heart, man. It's like I wish people.
So you don't talk about it. I'll talk about it. I told you earlier with your law firm that if I ever need any kind of help legally, like you're the person I'm going to, and I'm not saying that because you're a friend. Well, yes, you're a friend, so I'm gonna help you out and work, look out for you. But what I'm trying to say is, I've known you forever. You have a pure heart. You mean no harm, right? You're always gonna give people the advice that you would give to your parents, right? So for that reason, like Aco Djuricic, he's the person that I would go to, because I know that you will not try to screw me or do me harm. I know you'll give me the best advice. And even going back to people that were coming to you and wanting to open up a business, you telling them you don't need me.
Yeah.
How many people would collect the money for doing something that the person can do by themselves at home, right?
Yeah.
And that's what separates you from others. That's why you're going to be successful, right?
Oh,
because
man.
you're
It make me
pure.
emotional here, man.
I mean, we're just being honest here, good people prevail, and like I said, the word of mouth. If you treat me right, I'm gonna tell my family, my friends, that Aco Djuricic treated me the way I'm supposed to be treated, and I'm gonna recommend them to you, right? So you were saying that you're pure-hearted, and I just jumped in to kind of confirm that and just to vouch for you, because I do think you're an extremely good person. You've never meant any harm. I've known you for so long. You've never meant any harm besides kicking my ball.
Yeah. I make mistakes. Believe me, I am not infallible for sure. But I just want people to understand. I get life, man.
Yeah.
I've been blessed to understand life.
Yeah.
And I've been blessed because I've had so much love in my life.
Yeah.
And I had 3 great-grandmothers, all 4 great-grandparents, all 4 grandparents, 2 parents, the best brother in the world, and a beautiful wife that supports me. I've won.
Right.
I got nothing else.
Yeah.
All this, the rest that's happening now, this is the icing. This is the cherry on top.
Yeah.
So that's what I just want people to understand. That's why my heart is okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can't win anymore.
Right.
I
don't need anything else. You have everything.
I don't need anything else ever again.
Right.
And I'm more than happy. I'm more than happy to see every single Serb in our community, and I say that with the bottom of my heart, see them do better than me.
Yeah.
And use me to get to a better place than me.
Yeah.
Because I love that. I love to help people. Because I've recognized what life is about. I've recognized death. I've recognized the things that I want to change in this world. Yeah. I don't want to be afraid. I want to do things that are good. One of the things that I want to do good for is help our community. Yeah. Our community has meant everything to me. I was an American 4 days out of the week, and I was a Serb 3 days. Yeah. Friday dance practice, Saturday Zabava, Sunday school. Yeah. And then we were playing soccer, right? We were doing all these things together, man. It was amazing growing up in our community. There's no reason. I've had a beautiful upbringing. I've had a beautiful connection with our people. Yeah. There's been obviously bad times, but there's more good than bad. So let's figure out how to do this, guys. Whoever it is. And if I have to step back now, obviously because of everything I got going on, but I want to be a resource. Yeah. I want to help. Whatever position I'm in, I want every single person to know that I want to be there. Yeah. And I'll help you, because I not only do I feel that way, but I've seen it now, starting my own firm. Mm-hmm. It's been the most challenging thing I've ever done in my life, without a doubt. And I don't have right now somebody that's a mentor that I feel like I can rely on. Yeah. So like I told you, last night I was sitting there till 2:30 a.m., then I couldn't fall asleep till 4:30 because I was like struggling to find what I wanted to do. And it wasn't because it was something like so hard. Yeah. If I had the mentorship, it would be much easier, but I don't. Yeah. And so now not only do I understand, have a good heart, but I understand what helping people means. Right. From my personal experience, how you can change someone's life. And that was another thing I wanted to do with Salik, was how build a mentorship program. Mm-hmm. That's something I think was so important for us. So whoever's out there, do that. Whether it's SAS, I think SAS was in a great position to be able to do that with the college students. Our parents were not where we are today. They were in a different position. They didn't know how the university system works. They didn't know how, the networking things worked and all.
They came here and they had to work.
They just had to work.
Right. We got lucky that we came here with them and we didn't have to work.
Right.
We just had to learn English, go to school. But we're in this position now because of them.
Correct.
Right. They were that bridge for us.
Correct. And now we use that to mentor others.
So why we cannot waste this opportunity that we have.
Yeah.
And we can't waste it. We have to unite somehow and just have a bigger presence here in the United States, but also outside of United States, wherever our Serbian communities are, Canada, Australia. I mean, if we all put our minds and heads together, there's no reason why we all can't be successful. And I'm sure, some people aren't as ambitious, but there's no reason why we as Serbian people can't help each other out.
Not with the technology we have.
Absolutely not.
Just turn on. We got Zoom.
Right.
We could have a meeting with 100 people.
Right.
We don't have to leave our room.
Let's talk.
Right.
Let's talk about anything.
Yeah. Let's figure out how we can help each other.
What is the problem that we have? Let's get on. Let's get these organizations, these people that run these organizations. Let's all talk. Yeah. And just fix our problems.
And let's not be afraid to look, because these things cost money.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. The lack of trust causes you to not have the money. Without the money, you can't do anything. It's unfortunate. That's the world we live in.
Right.
That's the reality of the situation.
Right.
And that was one of the things that's a barrier. And part of the reason that's a barrier is, Serbs don't trust for some reason. Some Serbs don't trust because they're worried that someone's going to do something wrong with other Serbs, with the money. And that's not where we want to be. There's no reason that we need to be there. We have more than enough to go around and to trust, and we have good people. Let's move past all that.
Yeah, I agree. How's I know you said starting your own firm has been pretty busy, huh?
Ooh, it has been very busy for sure.
Before we jump with your firm, where'd you go to college?
So I did 2 colleges. I went first year. I talk about your parents not being able to kind of explain to you some things, but it was great. I played basketball at St. Francis and Joliet. That was fantastic, but I had this dream of I'm going to be some European basketball player or something. What was I thinking?
Bro, what do you mean, man?
What do you mean? I was like,
were good.
I was good, but I'm like a 5'10" point guard that's like, just sitting on the corner. I mean, today's game maybe I'd be a little bit okay, but it was not. It was not the smartest thing, and I was afraid to leave home.
We were kids, man. I had a dream of being a soccer player and a basketball player.
Right.
Maybe soccer, but basketball, what was I thinking?
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying.
But
that's what I'm saying, man. And it's like, and at that time I was like, oh, let's do it. But looking back, I should have.
But going back to the basketball part, even me with my basketball and my soccer, if I put in more work, there might have been something. With soccer, for sure, right? Well, not for sure. But if I put in more work, there might have been something, right?
Yeah.
But so just because, you say, what was I thinking? Well, you still learn from that. Because you look back and you can, I didn't put up that extra 1,000 shots a week, right?
I didn't either, man.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying is so you learn from that. Like, why didn't I succeed in this? Oh, well, that's because I didn't do this. So my next adventure or my next idea, I'm going to put a little bit more effort in.
Right.
So even though there was nothing out of it, I'm sure you still took out.
Oh, it was fantastic from the leadership perspective. I mean, I learned how to become a leader. I learned the things that you got to do. How to balance the politics of it all. It was a great segue into kind of the future that I want to get into. And so then after that, I went to DePaul and I did poli-sci there. Majored in poli-sci.
Poli-sci, what's that?
Political science, obviously, of course. With me, with politics, philosophy, that'd have been like political science, philosophy, something like that. I wish I could have studied everything, but it was political science, and then I did a minor in English in professional writing. After that, I went to, I don't know if you're interested or not, or anybody is, but then I did paralegal at Roosevelt, paralegal certificate. And then after that, at law school in Indianapolis. And that journey, that period of my life, I was telling you earlier, was a whirlwind for me. And in so many ways, very difficult to go through. because think before then things were very easy for me in life.
Mm-hmm.
I was, again, I've been blessed in so many ways, man. I can't explain to you. I can't explain to anybody, I don't think. And I struggle with that all the time. I struggled even with at that time. You know, sometimes I'm embarrassed how blessed I feel. So I try to like not share it, you know, just because I am so blessed. And it was,
you should absolutely share. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being blessed.
Yeah. I kind of gotten to that point maybe now, but you know, that period of like becoming a man and kind of going through all these things and all the struggles from that period were very difficult. It's literally like a blur. And it, you know, my life, even when I got married, all that stuff, it was still like a blur. And it wasn't like clarity didn't come until right before law school. And you know, it was after my grandfather passed away, Jadjanko. That was 2014, and I was like, that was kind of like the splash of cold water in my face. Like, man, this is you're good. We're all going for sure, man. Yeah. So you got to move. You got to move and make. At that time, I thought in my head like, let's make my grandpa proud. And then I thought, you know, then kind of rolled over. And so I don't know how we got here, but it was on this tangent again. But you know, that period was very difficult, but I learned so much. You know, I learned so much, and I set me up for more success, I think, than I could have ever imagined. And you know, there's times I've done a couple other podcasts where I open up so much, and and you know, my parents and grandparents don't say, you know, right? But I think it's important. To say, and I think we were talking about, I think someone posted about Nikola, there was a post, Krishmatovich, about hearing how his struggle with like something with architecture. Was it like someone messaged him or you?
I think it was someone messaged me talking about the importance of sharing that he failed
right,
a couple of his exams.
Correct.
To make him, to which he needed those exams to be considered an architect, to have that
right
credential after his name. But the importance of sharing that, because somebody else who hears it, you know, it's okay to fail.
Because there's not one person that hasn't.
Right.
And so it can get to a point where you feel like you're isolated. You're somehow different, right? You've done something wrong because you weren't able to overcome something.
Right.
You know, but those are tests. Those are tests. Those are meant to be there, whether spiritual, religious, personal, whatever. They're tests. They're opportunities to get stronger. And so that, despite that period being difficult, it got me to the point where when I got to law school, I was not blowing that opportunity, and I was not going to blow the future anymore. And so that's what happened. I came in. I hustled. I made connections. I worked hard. You know, I did all the things that I wanted to do. I crammed it with as much as I could. I expanded my knowledge like crazy. I built on my skills to prepare myself for the future. I ended up becoming commencement speaker of my class. I mean, it was
a what speaker? I'm sorry.
Commencement speaker.
What is that?
It's like I was voted by my law school class to represent us at graduation, give a speech. And unfortunately, the pandemic cut that short, and I'm very proud of that. So I think
how many people in your class?
275.
And they voted for you?
And they voted for me.
That's fucking sick, bro.
I don't know, man. Like I said, I don't know what I've done sometimes to deserve it because I'm nowhere near perfect.
You're a good person, man.
But I'm nowhere near perfect.
I know, but it comes back to being a good person. People see that. People value that.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard though, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard because you know your faults and you know that you want to get better, and you know, and I don't want to feel like I'm better than anybody. I don't want anybody to think that I'm better than them. It makes me uncomfortable.
But you're competing against yourself.
Thank you.
You're being better than you were yesterday.
That's right.
You're not competing against other people. Me personally, I'm competing against myself when it comes to being in shape, when it comes to being ambitious, work, whatever it is. I'm not looking at other people. I'm looking at myself.
You do. That is 100%. And that was my mindset in law school. Once I got to law school, and even every day today. Yeah. Every day is about me being better than yesterday. Right. And so when I got to law school, I said, okay, there's a lot of students in this class and a lot of very smart people that are smarter than me. I can't, if I'm gauging off of them, forget it. Game over. I'm not going to win. I'm going to dig myself a hole. Right. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, every semester, I'm going to get better grades. And I did that. And that was how, and because I looked at it from that perspective. Every semester, I made sure that I got better grades until last year when I already got a job, and then I was kind of more passionate about doing SALC, right?
Yeah.
This was why the reason I got up to this point was so I could do the things that I'm passionate about. Right. And so, that all grew, all that hardship, all that difficult part, the emotional, and I'm a very emotional person as it is. I'm very passionate. It's good and bad, and there was times it was very difficult. It was very bad. But there was also times where it was very good. And those ups and downs got me to kind of where I am today. And it's gotten me to the point where I feel comfortable, as we were talking about earlier before the podcast. I got so comfortable with anything that comes before me.
Yeah.
I literally, not that and again, I'm not comparing to the people that have gone through so much worse than me.
Right.
But I feel, for me, it might have been like that. And I know I shouldn't say, but it felt like that for me. So I think regardless of what comes, I feel ready. I feel ready to handle it. And a big part of that is the Stoics, right? Stoics talk about that. It's about you control your mindset. You can't control external conditions, but you can control how you feel about them. And that's where I feel I cannot lose.
Right.
I feel I am able to so mentally, obviously there's still hard days, but I feel like tomorrow, today was a bad day, tomorrow I'm going to be able to overcome it.
Yeah.
I'll be able to have a clearer set. I'll be stronger, and that's all because of those hard things that I went through.
Yeah.
And so when I bring those things up, I want to share because, parents have a very difficult, that's why I'm very scared about becoming a parent one day, but I'm very excited about becoming a parent because of you have a big responsibility.
Yeah. You
got to prepare your kids for life. And part of that is you got to look almost infallible. Because, they look at you as like a role model. They look at you as this perfect person. And so you're trying to avoid being imperfect. And that sometimes, avoiding being imperfect can sometimes put doubts in your kids, unfortunately. So it's like a double-edged sword, And so the reason I say it is whoever's listening, if your parents sometimes don't say it, there are people that are going through the same stuff. And they're not saying it not because they don't know to say it or these other things. It's probably most likely because they want to be strong for you. They want to be strong. They want to be your safety. I think that was my parent. I think I'm speaking from my experience. I'm probably from yours too.
Yeah.
They wanted to be the safety for you. They wanted to always feel like you never had to worry about anything, especially from the area where we come from.
Right.
Our parents are doing everything possible to keep us safe,
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I got to that point and got through law school, got the law firm job, and then I thought everything was great, but we got to the point where the pandemic and kind of reassessing where I was in life, and I figured to be able to do what I want to do in the future, I got to do this solo thing. So.
And you're talking about your firm.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, my
so
office.
having your own firm, being your own boss, kind of will allow you to put more focus on other passions that you have.
Well, it's gonna do a number of things. One, it's gonna give me the challenge that I need to be a good attorney, because it's gonna force me out of my comfort zone. And what I've noticed going through all those things is if I'm forced out of my comfort zone, that's where I'm hitting my sweet spot. And I go to work every day. I am forced out of my comfort zone like crazy.
Yeah.
And so I know that is going to be down the line. It's going to be very, really rewarding.
Yeah.
At the same time, it gives me the ability to dictate my schedule. So if it's not a court hearing that's set, I'm able to adjust my day. So if I want to go work out in the morning, I can kind of move that around, right? If I want to study or learn about something else like blockchain or crypto, or I want to pursue political passions, or I want to do a podcast with you, or I want to do my own thing, we're talking politics, or get to the point where I want to hopefully be is being a politician, which sounds like so terrible. And it's not because, there's be honest, there is an aspiration part, there is like a center of attention part, but there's also the part, because again, I'm very cognizant of how I think, but there's also the part that I want to bring good into the world. Yeah. I really do. And I think I was born with the ability to do that. Yeah. Certain skills that I was just naturally came to me. And I shouldn't be embarrassed to use those skills to do well. Right. To do good in the world. to bring about positive change.
Yeah, it's kind of that self-awareness, figuring out what you're good at.
For sure.
Like, what are you good at? And then after you find out what you're good at, then you can figure out, what makes you happy and how you can use those tools that you have, those qualities that you have to pursue a certain passion of yours, right?
Yeah. And one of the things was there's a test called the Clifton Strengths test, which we were talking about earlier with personality. That test, what that's based on, the idea is there's these 34 traits. It's very in depth. It's been like 50, 60 years of research have been put into this. And what you do is you take this 45-minute assessment. After the assessment gets done, what you find out is like, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And what it's built upon is you don't look at too much of your weaknesses. You focus on what your strengths are, and you focus specifically on the top 5 and then the next 5. And using those, you find like the sweet spot of whatever you want to do in life or your career, whatever. And so and then you also kind of have an idea of what your weaknesses are, but you don't touch on them too much. You're just kind of cognizant of them, aware of them.
Yeah.
And so
so what are some of your strengths that kind of that make you think you'll be a good political person? Or
yeah, no, and when I did that test, it kind of reaffirmed the fact of the path that I'm on. And it was, my number one is like this thing called input, which is you love to read, you love to collect information, you like to learn about new information, but you also like the things that you do know, you want to like really dig in and do that. So over time, I've collected so much information in my mind. That's why I'm always all over the place, because I got a million things going through.
Yeah.
But that's given me the ability to learn a lot, to understand different aspects about, different perspectives, different people, all that. And then, number two is like, there's the input. And then number 2 is passion. It's like an activator in general. I can't remember the terms, but like the top 5 are either related to like, input, intellect, collecting information, or motivating people. Like there's one called the activator, and that's one of my top 5 strengths, which is the idea is like you're able to bring people together and lead, and even get them to kind of perform above what their natural ability is. So if you have a team that doesn't
bring out the best of them,
correct, they'll perform above what you would expect them to perform, which I think is a fantastic trait. I was like so pumped when I saw that, but those are all those things that I'm really kind of naturally came to me. It's personality, and actually the top 10 were across the board. There's like 4 different categories. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but these 4 categories, some are like the executive execution, then like this knowledge part, and then relationship building, and I can't remember the 4th one. But for me, literally in the top 10, I had either 2 or 3 of each one. So it was like so well balanced, and I had somebody that I know also did it, and theirs was much different. So I thought, maybe it's like something's not right with this or something. Everyone's across the board, but it was very different. And so that's it really kind of motivated me again, validated where kind of how I'm thinking about the future.
What's this test called again?
I absolutely recommend this. It's called Clifton Strengths 34. It's Gallup is the organization, Gallup, like the polling people, but I guess they're bigger, which I didn't know before I took this test. They're like the owner.
Sure. But you recommend the test?
I recommend it to everybody. As I'm building my firm or whatever endeavor I go into the future, I will absolutely have every single person that works with me. I will pay for that for them to do.
Yeah.
Because I think it's that valuable for teams to understand. First, the individual to understand what they're good at and what they're not good at, but also for teams to understand strengths. Yeah. So you can understand like people operate differently. They have different ways of thinking. They have different biology is different. Everything is different.
Yeah.
So by understanding what we are, all cards on the table. So now we can start putting the chessboard. Oh, number 2, that's problem solver. Number 2 for me is problem solver, which makes sense. It's one of those things where it says if you most people when they are faced with a problem, they see they run away from it. They're not interested in it. But for me, I'm like a masochist, right? It's just like, yes, let me figure out how to solve this, and that's literally what input and that being an attorney or being a politician, and then especially with putting in the people thing, those are 3 great traits for kind of things that I'm really passionate about, which is great. You know, the things that I like are the things that I have skills that naturally kind of apply to that. So it's, but I would highly recommend that test for everybody. I think you'll be very wide opening. And I think one of the things that's very important is getting to know yourself.
Yeah.
That period for me, 20 to 35, was about me getting to know myself.
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was.
And I say the same thing.
Yeah.
I say like between 20 to 30, I think I was like 4 or 5 different people. You know what I mean? In like those 10 years.
Yeah.
But I also say that I think my 30s are going to be the best years of my life. Besides obviously being a teenager and a kid, you know, that's a different life. But I think my 30s are going to be the best because I already have an idea of who I am, you know, what I value, what drives me. Just, you know yourself as a person. So when you know yourself as a person, then you can put that focus on different aspects of your life, right? And in the 20s, I'm kind of worried about going out, having a good time, you know, looking for a good time, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's all it is. Yeah. Yeah. But then when you get to your 30s, you already kind of have everything figured out. So that's why I think my 30s are going to be the best.
Oh, I can personally vouch for you for sure. I think you're just about to hit that sweet spot, man. And I think for a lot of men. Yeah. And I think men are in a difficult position today. It's, you know, you're expected to do so much. You know, you're expected to be strong. You're expected to be competent. They tell you it's okay they want men to be emotional, but look, biology is biology. Yeah. Women, as much as they want to say that they want a sensitive, emotional guy, they want security, right? That's just, we're wired that way, which is okay. But that puts men in a very difficult position because you have to try to navigate all of this. You know, you have to try to keep your masculinity down, right? Because it's toxic masculinity. So you can't kind of push that forward because that's somehow, you know, viewed negatively. But then,
makes no sense.
Right. But then at the same time, you know, you're going through the 20s, you're dealing with all these emotions. So don't be masculine, but then you got to be sensitive. So be sensitive. But then when you're sensitive, you're kind of going through all this stuff. So it's all over the place. Yeah. And so I think all men are struggling in their 20s these days, you know, trying to find who they are, trying to understand, like, how do I balance all the things that I'm facing? Yeah. It's very difficult. But I think there's a shift happening. And I think what you're doing is an example of that. I think what a lot of other people, other men are doing is they're putting themselves out there. They're facing the challenge. They're becoming competent. They're embracing their masculinity. You know, facing the dragon, as Jordan Peterson would say, or carrying their cross and trying to be better and trying to help other people. And I think what you're doing is gonna be incredible for, I think, a lot of, especially young Serbs. Yeah, you're gonna break the mold. You're gonna help connect people with people that we don't know. Yeah, you know, that they can kind of reach out to, like we said earlier.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
I think you're there, man.
But it's like I can't just do it on my own, right? I gotta have people come on. I gotta have people that are open to coming on. Yeah. You know, like I'm lucky to have you and a bunch of other friends, right? Yeah. But like we mentioned, like, how am I gonna get the strangers to come on? You know, Nikola and Jovica and Srub and all my friends, right? They're coming on because they see this idea as a good idea and they want to help me out, right? But I gotta figure out how to get the strangers, the people that I don't know, how to make them feel, how to make them see the opportunity, not the opportunity, but what I'm trying to do here, you know, and having them come on. So what I'm trying to say is, like, yeah, you know, this is all good, but again, without having the support of other people, it's not gonna grow, you know, without people actually hitting the share button. And I hate asking for like likes and comments and shares, but it's important.
It's critical. Critical. You have to. We're all algorithm driven. The world we live in is algorithm driven. Algorithms are driven by interaction, comments, likes, shares. Those are the things that get us. So regardless of where you're at, if you're a Serb and you see another Serb that's sharing something they got, don't share me, Božo, anybody else. Share their stuff, like their stuff, comment on their stuff, help them get to where they want to go. And you're the number one example. So Spotify, if you're listening to us on Spotify, 5-star. If you're on Apple Podcasts, 5-star. whatever platform, you Google. I don't even know what people listen on.
I got to get on other.
Yeah.
I'm only on Spotify and YouTube right now.
Yeah.
Just because those were YouTube is easy.
YouTube.
Spotify was very easy to get on.
Right.
But I got to figure out how to get on like iTunes and all the other Google podcasts and all the other platforms.
And it's uncomfortable sometimes to have to say that.
Yeah.
But that's the name of the game.
Right.
And so, but we got to help each other with that.
Yeah.
What better way to do it than push that way? Sasha Stefanovic, the kid that plays basketball at Purdue, there was like a poll recently for basketball, and somebody was sharing on Facebook like vote for Sasha, and I voted. I went and voted for the poll, and I looked at the poll numbers, and they were like 90% for Sasha. Because there were people out there that were Serbs that were going out there to vote.
Yeah.
And so let's do this. I try to do that. I know you try to. You do it all the time too. You're always sharing other people's success. You're always
It's important.
Right. You're branding them.
So why not? That's all it takes is a fucking share. All I'm doing is clicking share or making a little comment. That's all it is. It takes 10 seconds of my life.
And let's call it like it is.
Right.
You saw it.
Right.
You saw it, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
You saw it, bro. Come on.
Yeah.
Like don't be kidding.
Right.
Just share it, like it.
Yeah.
There's no. We're all gonna help each other.
If you're sharing it. I don't know. Anyways.
No, I'm glad we hit that. I'm glad we mentioned that because I was gonna mention it on my own too because especially for what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's critical.
Because that's how you grow a podcast.
Yeah.
You got to be on social media.
But not just that. I mean, I got to have good.
Oh.
If I have guests like yourself on.
I'm a peanut here compared to what you're gonna have coming, man. That's why I said I'm glad I got on earlier so that I could be like, hey, I was on the Bo Do podcast, by the way, back in 2022.
Trust me, man. You have a seat open whenever you would like.
When you get Musk on here, make sure please like and the second time he's on, let me get an invite.
Okay.
Let me get an invite.
Sounds good.
Oh, I gotta before I forget. I don't know if we're gonna. I was gonna say one thing I was waiting to say was. I was hoping there was going to be some kind of topic that we were going to have to pull up. And I was going to have Chicalazo. Say, Chicalazo, can you pull that up on the screen on Google? Search up.
Yeah, like he's behind the computer in the corner.
Right. Like at the Joe Rogan.
Yeah. I should ask him to do that.
Yeah.
Then he's got to learn how to Google and do all that.
That's going to be the struggle, right?
Yeah, that's going to be the struggle. But going back to your law firm, how long ago did you start it?
So I filed back in August, when formally, and then, man, to be honest, I did not do the work that I needed to do going in, but I knew that, and
what
that
kind
was
of work?
Part of the understanding. I knew a little bit like what was about, but I didn't know enough. But that's the thing. I knew if I waited and I was going to keep researching, I could research into forever. My number one trait is input.
Yeah.
I could sit there and research all day,
Yeah.
But I knew if I got to jump in. So when I jumped in, there were things I didn't know. Like I thought, okay, now I'm licensed attorney. I'm licensed attorney in Illinois, Indiana, and DC. Perfect. Well, turns out you got to also you got to register your firm with the state. So then I had to learn that, then after that it became, okay, now what?
Yeah.
So then it's like you got to have the software, law practice management software. You got to learn that part. You got to learn QuickBooks. I got to learn how to become an accountant. You got to learn how to marketing. You got to learn, you got to build a system in place. Like how are you, when you get a new case, how are you going to organize that case? How are you going to charge? How are you going to get paid?
And this is all these things you kind of didn't look into before you started.
No. Not in detail. I mean, I had experience with Clio, which is the law practice management software. We use that in law school. But a lot of this other stuff, it's running a business.
But that's what it is. Like you just jump in there and start swimming.
That's right.
Right. Like, I mean, if like you said, if you take all this time to research, you're always going to find things that you say oh, I need to do this a little bit better. I need to do some more research on this. So if you continue doing that, you're just prolonging that first step, which is starting that company.
It's an excuse.
Just start it, jump in, and figure out along the way.
Look, I've gone 100%. I'm going into this with the real idea that this might not work.
Yeah.
I'm going to do everything possible though to make sure that it does.
Right.
But when I jumped in, I knew that.
Yeah.
And you gotta be cognizant of that, because if you're not, then you could be set up for some very bad times, I think.
Yeah.
But you gotta jump in to do it. Face, feet, head first.
Right.
And you hope that it's gonna get better. And the amount of support that I've gotten has been incredible.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know what I don't know what I did to deserve it, but so much support from people that, like, my law school colleagues, my family, my friends, you, everybody. It's been shocking, and my first clients.
It's awesome.
It's awesome, man, and it's the story of why everything we're talking about is fact.
Yeah.
My clients, first clients, are all Serbs.
Mm-hmm.
They're all Serbs. So there's good people out there. There's good Serbs out there.
Right.
So do not let the bad apples give you a bad impression of who we actually are.
Right.
There are good people, and there are people that are wanting to be out there to support. There's one person in particular has been massive for me, and I don't want to mention his name, but one day I will. And he's younger than me, younger than me, but he's going to be 10 times more successful than I am, because he's got heart, he's got passion, he's got smarts, he's got work ethic that I'm not even close to, and that's what I'm saying. It's all there, man.
Yeah.
And but if I didn't have that, look, it'd be much more difficult.
Yeah.
And it's going to be still hard. There's going to be a lot of hard things. That's why I'm up till 2:30 last night. It's doing things that I shouldn't be taking that long sometimes to do, but there's extra effort.
You were preparing for the podcast till 2:30.
That's exactly what it is. Well, you better believe me, dude. I prepared. When you called me, I was like, dude, I'm listening to every single podcast. I mean, I'm still listening to every one, but I listened to your first one twice.
Oh man,
because I was like,
that was the toughest one.
I like to be prepared.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's about, if you're prepared, take the leap. And not prepared enough to, like, again, not perpetual preparedness, but to the point where once you get in something, make sure you feel like you're comfortable enough. You have the skills or the tools, and I do that for everything. When I was talking Russia, Ukraine, I sat there much more than I should have, learning about Russian history and Ukrainian history, which was great because I love to do it. But it was, I got ready.
Yeah.
And I got ready. I felt like I need to get ready for this podcast too. Everything that I do, I try to get ready for, because I want to be an example.
Yeah.
And I want to make myself proud. I want to make my family proud, and I want to inspire, like you, inspire people. Have a good thing. You're like, what am I going to wear? I'm going to wear a suit, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look good or not, whatever. But it's like, I want to. That's the brand I want to put. That's the image I want to put out there.
Right.
I want to. When people see me, I want them to be like, hey, that's Atsu,
Yeah.
or Alex or whatever. It's like one of those things, and it's everyone's got their own things that they want to put out in the world, and that's how I look at it.
So with your law firm, what do you specialize in, or what's the terminology?
Yeah.
What do you focus on?
Yes. So when I was at the firm,
I was looking at your website. I was trying to prepare myself a little bit too.
Oh, bravo! Well,
but I saw like 20 different areas of practice.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was like,
those are clearly getting narrowed down.
Okay.
But those were on there from a marketing perspective to, like, whatever comes in the door. Just come on in. Let's pay the bills here, man. I got expenses. Let's pay this stuff. But the hard part for me was kind of going to the firm was when I got my law firm job right after my 1L year, after my 2L summer.
Mm-hmm.
1L summer, I got the internship for 2L for the second year. After the second year, that's where you work, and you basically almost always get that job. It's like that's how it typically works in law school.
Mm-hmm.
Like that job is almost a lock unless you like do something very bad. So I had that locked in, and when I knew that, it was all litigation. So it's all like kind of civil litigation, when people sue each other, contract breaches, whatever,
mm-hmm.
or injury, personal injury. And so that's what I was doing. And so I kind of focused in on that for the rest of law school. I didn't do a lot of the more transactional type of things. And so then, apart from the things that were mandatory, so when I got out of law school, I was doing litigation. I was doing trucking accidents, personal injury, and premises liability.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I was focusing on. And then when I kind of came out, there was a whole area of new stuff that I wasn't doing before.
Yeah.
And turns out now, like 75% of the stuff that I'm doing is transactional. So which is great because I think it's easier to learn, but obviously there's a steep learning curve. So, it's setting up a business, right? That's a little bit easier, but there's the operating agreements. It's understanding like the contract stuff that you work, that you do. And so I'm doing a lot of that. I have a couple like personal injury contract reaches on the litigation side as well, but it's like mostly been this transactional real estate type deals. One of the things I'm very passionate about is which I want to, if I focus in down the line, it's going to be inevitably in blockchain and crypto, which I'm like incredibly passionate about forever.
I want to talk to you about that, but we won't have time today about crypto.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I wanted to touch upon, but we just don't have enough. But, it'll give us a reason to do this.
For sure.
We'll do another episode.
For sure.
It'll give us a good reason.
Yeah. No, and that's kind of, I have one massive crypto client. And so I'm up till 2:30 in the morning.
Nice.
Right. You're trying to figure out everything that you got before you. So it's been great.
I so want to get into the crypto talk with you.
Yeah.
But we'll save it.
We'll save it, man.
Maybe tonight we'll talk a little bit, and then we can get on another podcast later on.
For sure, man.
So can people from Illinois reach out to you? Are you able to help people out that live here in Illinois?
Yeah. So I Indiana, Illinois, and DC are the 3 states that I'm licensed in, barred in. And then I'm also in all the federal courts as well, in both, except DC. I'm not in the federal court in DC yet. But all federal in Indiana, Illinois, and then even across the board. So the things that you can't, so when you get licensed, essentially what you can't do is you can do like one-off stuff in other states, but you can't do like consistently. And you can't like present, you can't go before the court for like a case in Missouri or something.
Sure.
You can ask for the court to allow you to represent a client in those states, but you got to get the approval, and you got to find like local counsel to kind of act as local counsel to kind of support you and do all the things that they got to do from that end. But from the Illinois side, Illinois, Indiana, and that's where typically everything I'm doing is Illinois, Indiana, apart from the crypto client, which is like a bigger kind of international thing.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, man, dude, thank you so much for coming on.
I'm so sorry. All this talking, man.
Sorry? I want to keep going. I just don't think like episodes should be long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At first.
Yeah. You cut this one, find what's good, and then the rest will like save it when we're like 70. Be like, oh my God, look at all the stuff that you're talking about.
No, I enjoyed this. I mean, I knew your episode was gonna go a little bit longer because there's so many. You're very interesting, and no, seriously, man.
Same,
like,
man.
there's so many things I want to ask you and talk to you about, and you're just so good at talking. I can listen to you all day long.
Now, dude, let me just say real quick here. I feel the same way about you, man. This conversation right here. Let me tell you.
Stop it, bro.
No. I've been so focused in. I was nervous with this mic. I told you earlier, this mic and the headset. I didn't know, but I've been like zoned in on you here. I felt so comfortable, which is, despite being an extrovert as I am, I still get nervous.
Yeah.
And being with you, I've been comfortable. So everyone out there, if you get invited by Bojo, come on his podcast because he's gonna make you feel comfortable.
That's my goal. Like I told you, like let's just have a conversation like two friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And another thing I liked about you was you were like, I asked you, I was like, should I send you an outline? You're like, no, we can just talk. And that makes it so much easier. It's like when I don't have to kind of focus on certain things, we can just talk. Open book, like you said.
That's right.
So, man, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for the honor, man.
Absolutely. And I cannot wait till we do it again. I'm looking forward to our night tonight.
Yes, I am too. The old man's coming out. The old married guy.
Atso is coming out. He drove from Indianapolis. Not just Indiana.
Yeah.
It wasn't over the border. It was Indianapolis. 3.5 hours?
3 hours, yeah.
3 hours. He drove 3 hours to Chicago to be on my podcast.
I told you, if that's all it took, that's nothing, man.
How awesome is that, you guys?
That's nothing for me, man. I'm telling you. I am pumped because I know where this is going. So
Man.
3 hours was nothing. I would have gone across the world to get ready for saying I was one of the first guys.
Thank you, Atso.
No, thank you, man.
I really do. Thank you. So thank you as well, our listeners. If there was any, I hope you guys enjoyed Atso and what he had to say. I think there's a lot of value in the topics that we covered today. And if you guys enjoyed our conversation, please give us a like, leave a comment, tell us what you thought. Atso and I will engage with you in the comment section. Share it, please, you guys, share it. That means the world. So, again, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And until next time.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Bojo.
Atso,
appreciate
it was a pleasure,
man.
my man. It was awesome, right?
Oh,
it was a good time.
Dude, so much fun, man.
I want to keep going.
This is so much fun. This is so much fun.
I know.
I'm telling you.
It's great.
I can't wait. I can't wait again, man.